This week's lineup is mostly sequels, a Lovecraftian horror game, and a Souls-like that's trying some different things. There are a few smaller titles as well, but these are the main ones worth talking about. Once again, no major AAA release this week, which gives the smaller and indie studios some actual room to breathe. Before we get into it, drop a comment and let me know what games you're waiting for on Steam. The Sinking City 2 releases August 18th. This is the clear headliner of the week. Frogware's sequel shifts the series harder into survival horror while keeping the investigative roots of the first game. You play as an occult investigator navigating a city overrun by eldritch horrors, the dead, and a supernatural flood. Think Resident Evil or Silent Hill with a dash of Sherlock Holmes in a Lovecraftian setting. This game emphasizes tension and resource management more than pure detective work. Ammo is limited, running is often the smarter option, and the environment itself feels hostile. You'll still piece together cases and use a journal system, but the overall tone is darker and more oppressive than the original. The setting, a half submerged Arkham, crawling with Lovecraftian creatures, is the main draw. Now, I have the remaster of the first game in my backlog. A lot of the complaints around that one were performance and the combat feeling weak. Because of that, The Sinking City 2 is probably one I'll wait on initial reviews for, specifically to see if the performance is solid at launch or if it needs a patch. And the bigger question for me is whether the mix of detective work and survival horror actually clicks. Cthulhu aesthetic always pulls people in, but the investigation side has to land in a sweet spot. Too easy and it feels pointless, too opaque and it frustrates a lot of players. The trailer looks good, and the series already has a fan base, so it has a better shot than most, but I'm still taking a wait and see approach on this one. Mortal Shell 2 releases August 20th. Cold Symmetry's follow up to the 2020 Souls like. The big changes are a more open and interconnected world, combat that no longer uses a stamina system, and deeper weapon customization. You still possess fallen shells, different bodies with unique playstyles, but the game feels less constrained and more aggressive than the original. The combat focuses on posture breaking and critical strikes rather than pure endurance. Exploration is more freeform, with the world designed to be compact but dense. It's positioning itself as a darker, more visceral alternative to bigger Souls likes, while still delivering the tough, methodical combat the first game was known for. Now, the problem with a lot of recent Souls likes is how heavily they lean on parrying and stance breaking. Games like Lies of P, Stellar Blade, and more recently Beast of Reincarnation all fall into this, and different weapons often end up feeling too similar because the core loop stays the same. What I actually want is to feel the weight of a giant weapon, or to build around status effects and hope they proc at the right time. The customization in Elden Ring and Dark Souls 3 mattered more than the size of the world. During this oversaturation period, it feels like that core principle has been getting lost. Mortal Shell 2 seems like it's trying to push back against that. And I played the demo and liked it more than the first game. Seeing titles like this and Lords of the Fallen take different approaches to the formula is encouraging, but we'll have to wait until release to see if they actually pull it off. Steins Gate Reboot releases August 20th, a full visual novel reboot of the 2009 classic. Everything has been redrawn: character art, backgrounds, event stills, and all the voice acting and music have been re recorded. The script has been refined for better pacing while keeping the core time travel story intact, and there is some new narrative content mixed in. The original Steins Gate is still highly regarded for its writing, characters, and the way it handles its science fiction concepts. This version is aimed at both longtime fans who want a modern presentation and newer players who never experienced the original. The Steam version launches earlier than consoles in the West. I'm not really a visual novel person. I prefer games where I'm actually playing the game instead of mostly reading. That said, I get why some of them have a dedicated audience. And Steins Gate is one of the more respected ones out there. The question is whether a full reboot like this still holds up when a lot of modern visual novels are shorter and less complex. Attention spans aren't what they used to be, and longer, denser story games have a harder time competing now. Tukoni, Forest Keepers, releases August 17th. A cozy hand-drawn puzzle adventure based on a series of Ukrainian children's picture books by Oksana Bula. You play as a forest spirit, a Tukoni helping the forest and its inhabitants prepare for winter. The game is light on text, heavy on atmosphere, gentle puzzles, collecting, and small acts of care, including brewing tea. The art style is the main selling point, soft, detailed, and deliberately warm. It's the kind of game that prioritizes mood and kindness over challenge or systems complexity. There is a free demo available that gives a good sense of the tone. Tukoni Forest Keepers is another cozy game in a genre that's already pretty crowded. A lot of these titles end up being more involved under the surface than they first appear, especially compared to games that put their systems front and center. The real question is whether the cozy market is too saturated right now for something like this to stand out. There are only so many games people have time for, and longer, slower experiences have a harder time cutting through. I'll check back next week and we'll see how it actually performed. Before we wrap up, let's look at last week's hottest release. Hell Let Loose, Vietnam, took the top spot. At the time of filming, it's sitting at number one on the Steam sales chart and hit a peak of around 30,000 concurrent players. Most of the other games from last week landed with mixed reviews, largely due to bugs. That's pretty normal for a lot of indie and early access titles. Give them a few weeks and check back in. As for this week, I'll be jumping into Mortal Shell 2 on its standard release date. I'm a sucker for Souls likes, but the Sinking City 2 is the one that'll probably have more of my attention over the coming weeks. I'm curious to see how the stronger survival horror focus works for a studio that's mainly known for detective games. Now, these are the top Steam releases this week. If I missed anything worth checking out, drop it in the comments. Subscribe if you want these every week. And if you made it this far, leave a like or share it with a friend who keeps saying there's nothing new to play.